start with yeast. So this is 1.5 cups of lukewarm tap water, and we're gonna mix a packet of yeast. I don't have packets, I have this. And according to the package directions, 2¼ teaspoons of this equals 1 yeast packet, which is usually 1/4 ounce. So I'm gonna get my teaspoons, because I'm gonna get 2¼ teaspoons of this. I'm gonna dissolve it into the lukewarm water. So we want to dissolve this. My mom actually uses her fingers to make sure that stuff gets combined really nicely. The thing about bread making is you can't be afraid to get your hands dirty, and I'm going to not use a kneading hook for this recipe. I'm going to do it on the table and do it the way my mom and my nonna taught me on how to do dough. If this is a kitchen basic, we're gonna get down to real basics. Like pretend you don't have a kitchen gadget to help you out. So you kind of take these clumps and push them against the side to make sure that they get dissolved. We're gonna set that aside. I have 2/3 of shortening. I'm gonna use butter that I've had sitting at room temp. We don't want it cold. I've got 2 eggs, also sitting to take the chill out. We don't really want anything very cold. And we have lukewarm mashed potatoes, roughly 1 cup. I get the package, so you can make yours according to package directions. So I made it, and it's still a little bit nice and warm, but not hot. On the back of your box, if you're gonna use boxed mashed potatoes, which is what my mom and I use for baking, skip the butter, because there's gonna be plenty of butter in this. What I did do though, is I added a splash of buttermilk to this, just to give a little richness to the dinner rolls. You could just use milk. Usually the package directions, it's water and a splash of milk while you cook it on the stove. So set that aside. We're gonna start with 3 cups flour. Into this, we're going to put some sugar, 2/3 of a cup, and 1.5 teaspoons of salt. We're going to combine this. We're going to add our mashed potatoes. And a little bit of our yeast. And as you work it, keep making a volcano. And then mishmash in your volcano, and then work it. I'm going to add 1 egg. I'm about halfway down from my yeast. This is when I add 1 of my eggs. And I mishmash it with my hand. And then I knead it in. Now I should say at this point, you know, we're starting with 3 cups of flour. We're gonna need more. We can knead up to about 6 to 8. It's gonna be a very sticky dough. See, we have all that yeast to still add. So at this point, to that 3 cups of flour, I'm gonna add 2 more. This is a trick to get some of your dough off of your fingers, is to dip your hand in your flour and then rub your hands. And the flour kind of rubs off the rest of the dough. See? Okay, that's 1 more cup. Two more cups. I'm going to, before I add more yeast, I'm going to mush up some of this butter. I'm going to add the rest of the butter. So a messy process, but look, it's coming together really nicely. However, I still have more yeast and 1 more egg to put in. So we're at 5 cups of flour. We're going to incorporate 1 more. That'll get us to 6. Might as well crack our other egg while we're at our messiness. Mush it all together like I showed you. This is really the old school way of doing things, guys. This is the way my grandmother made focaccia. If you look at my YouTube channel, my mother shows us how to make focaccia and ravioli, and she does it all on the table, just like this. She doesn't use any kneading hooks. It's all by hand. So hey, get some of your workout. I said this was a sticky dough, and it is. And like I said, we're gonna have up to possibly 8 cups of flour once we're done. This recipe I got from an old 1950s Betty Crocker recipe book. So this is old school. All right, so as you can see, this is way too sticky, right? We're gonna add more flour. Okay, that's 1 cup. So that's at 7. I'm giving this a swirl to make sure I get all of the yeast. And there we go. Everything now that needs to be in here is in here. And at this point, we're at 7 cups of flour. And my guess is we're gonna need that 8. And who knows? You gotta play it by ear if you're gonna need some more. It depends on the humidity of your house, how the flour's been stored. Still a little bit sticky. But almost. So rather than adding the full cup to make it 8, see how it's starting to come together? I think I might just do a half and see where that gets us. The great thing about dinner rolls, making them homemade, this dough can sit in the refrigerator for a week. And it makes about like 4 batches. So you can have it in the fridge and you can make dinner rolls throughout the week. You could also freeze the dough. So I'm only gonna do a half. And I'm gonna have the other half waiting. And I'm gonna see if this is just enough to get it to where it's sticky and elasticy, but not sticky to the point where we can't work with it. And you know what? It's feeling pretty good. I don't think we need the other, but let's just see till this is all incorporated. So you're gonna need kneading. Do you see what I'm doing here? I'm using the heel of my hand, I fold it, and then I push. Fold it and push. And push, and push. You're using the heel of your hand. You're also using your arms and your lower back to lean into this. I'm glad I've been working out with weights. This is a piece of cake. Well, guys, I don't think we need the other half. This is sticky, but not too sticky. There are other ways to knead your dough. You can punch it, roll and stick your thumb in. What you're doing is you're working the proteins and the gluten. It's feeling really good. So we've kneaded it to this point where it's nice and elasticy, but not too sticky and kind of bouncy. Took about 5 minutes all in all. This is a pretty big bowl. Now this can sit, like I said, for 8 hours or up to 5 days. No more, then it starts drying out. It's gonna grow in the fridge slowly. Keep it in the fridge. We're gonna wrap it up tightly. Then we'll look at it tomorrow and then we'll talk about next steps on making rolls. Here is our dough. You can see that it's grown. It's about doubled in size. And I've actually had it in the fridge for a couple days. And like I said, it's good for 5 days. I just need some rolls for tonight. So what I'm gonna do is cut off 1/4 of the dough. I'm gonna rewrap this so I can use it the rest of the week. With my dough, I'm going to flour the surface and punch down. Now we're gonna roll it out. And for crescent rolls, you want a circle. We're gonna roll it out into a disc. So we're looking for about a 12-inch circle, roughly. It's okay if it's not perfect. These are homemade. And you've rolled it out to about a 1/4 inch thick. Now, if you've got some softened butter or some softened margarine, we're going to spread a little bit on here. To keep the calories down, I'm just going to do some margarine because there's plenty of butter already in this dough, if you recall. So, and if you want to get fancy, you could probably do an herbed butter by mixing some herbs with your softened margarine or butter. Okay, there we are. Now we're going to cut this into 16 triangles. So we're going to start down the middle. And then again. Cutting these in half. Now we're going to go through and cut them in half again. So there we are, we have 16. And now we do the crescent roll. I'm going to take one wedge. There you are. And kind of pull and work with the dough as you roll it. And if you can get a little curve to them as they soften up a little bit more, that's ideal. And you want to get the point on the bottom. So keep rolling. See how I'm pulling and working with the dough a little bit as I'm rolling? Now, these look small, but these have to sit for an hour, and as they sit, the yeast is going to reactivate and grow. And I'm going to not refrigerate these. Keep them in a kind of a warmer, dark corner. So I'm gonna have these, I'm gonna find a baking sheet. I'm gonna line it with some parchment paper to set these on. All right, so I have a baking sheet with just some parchment. I'm going to set them a few inches apart because they're going to grow. You're going to hit the tops with a little bit more margarine. You can use a brush or a knife like what I'm doing. I'm going to cover this loosely with some plastic wrap. And I also have a clean, lint-free cotton towel that I'm going to cover. I'm gonna let them sit for an hour. And just when my hour's up, I'm going to preheat the oven to 400. It's been an hour and they've risen slightly, so now we're gonna cook them at 400 for about 15 minutes till they're golden and puffy. All right, they just came out of the oven. They're nice and brown and they're puffy. Here we are, ready for dinner. Thanks for joining me on Kitchen Basics.